Chapter 10. Surprising news. Anne had heard that an old friend of hers from school was living in Bath. The school friend, Miss Hamilton, had been very kind and helpful to Anne when she started school. Soon after her mother's death, Miss Hamilton had married a very rich man when she left school, but she was now the widowed and poor. Her husband has not been careful with his money. He had died 2 years before, leaving Miss Hamilton, now Mr. Smith, with nothing. She had been ill too, and could not walk, so she had come to Bath, where she was now living in a very simple way, because she was poor. She did not go to balls or concerts, and she had almost no visitors. Because Mr. Smith had been so kind to Anne, and because her life was so difficult now, and wanted to see her as soon as possible. When she visited Mr. Smith at home in Westgate Buildings, the two women quickly became friends again. Mr. Smith was sensible and agreeable, and illness and difficulties had not closed her heart or broken her spirit. On Anne's second visit, Mr. Smith talked very openly about herself. Her life was almost impossibly difficult. She had loved her husband and he had died. She had been rich and she was poor now. She was ill but had no children or relatives who could help her. Her home was a small room and she only had one servant to look after her. But Mr. Smith's mind was too open for her to feel sorry for herself. She was helped, she said, by a good nurse, who was a very clever, sensitive woman. Nurse Rook understands people, said Mr. Smith. Many better educated people are much more interesting than her. She tells me what is happening in Bath. A conversation with Nurse Rook is always fun, but at the moment she is nursing Mr. Wallace, who I understand is silly, fashionable woman, and I do not expect she will have anything interesting to tell me. And had visited Mr. Smith several times without telling Sir Walter and Elizabeth, but one night the family were invited to visit some cousins who were staying in Bath. Because Aunt had already promised to visit Mr. Smith, she told her father and sister that she could not go with them. "You are going to Western Buildings?" said Sir Walter. "And who is Miss Aunt Elliot visiting in Western Buildings?" Aunt told him about Mr. Smith, and he was afflicted. A widow, living in Western Buildings, a poor widow 50 years old, has almost nothing. Miss Aunt Elliot, you choose very strange friends. Mr. Clyde decided to leave the room at the moment. Mr. Smith was not the only woman in Bath who was 30 years old with little money and no husband, and thought to herself. But she said nothing. She went to see Mr. Smith, and Sir Walter and Elizabeth went to visit their cousins. The next morning she heard that they had had a lovely evening. Lady Russell and Mr. Elliot had been there as well. They were both sorry not to see her there. Mr. Elliot had been very pleased there when he heard that Anne was visiting a poor ill friend. He thought Anne was a wonderful young woman, Lady Russell told her. He admired her character, her good manners, and her mind. "I think that you could be happy with Mr. Elliot," Lady Russell told Anne. She was sure that Mr. Elliot wanted to marry Anne. "Mr. Elliot is very agreeable," Annie replied, "but we will not be good for each other. When I think that you could one day be mistress of Kellington House, it gives me the greatest happiness," Lady Russell went on. "You are so like your mother, and when I think of you in her home, with her name taking her place, the next Lady Elliot, my dear aunt, nothing could make me happier." And had to walk away for a moment. The picture of Kelly and Lady Elliot excited her too, but when she thought of Mr. Elliot, she knew that she could never be the next Lady Elliot. She did not want to marry him, and not just because she still had feelings only for one person. There were other quiet, different reasons. Anne had not Mr. Elliot for a month now, but she still did not know him very well. She was sure that he was sensible and agreeable, but when he talked about the past, she could see that he had not once been a different person. For a while, he had not been careful about serious things. How could anyone be sure that he had really changed? Mr. Elliot was polite and had perfect manners, but he was not open. He never showed strong feelings of happiness or anger about anything, and a warm, open heart was more important to Anne than anything. It was the beginning of February, and Anne had not had a letter from Mary for 3 weeks. She wanted very much to hear news from Precross and Lim, so she was wild when a letter arrived for her. She was also very pleased when she saw that the letter had been left by the Crofts, so the Crofts were in Bath. My dear Anne, am I writing with news about Louisa, who is now much better? She and the Harrys arrived at the great house on Tuesday. You will not believe her news. Captain Bedwich is in love with her, and they want to get married. He wrote to Mr. Montrose and asked him, "Can you believe it? We are all surprised. We were all very pleased too. Mr. Montrose has written back to Captain Wentworth to say yes. We are expecting Captain Wentworth today. Charles wants to know what Captain Wentworth will think. But if you remember, I never saw he planned to marry Louisa. Charles sends his love. Yours, Miriam." Mary was right. Anne had never been so surprised about anything in her life. Captain Bedwich and Louisa Musgrove. Louisa, who had such high spirits and was always sulking, and Captain Bedwich, who liked reading and thinking and had such strong feelings of sadness. They were so different, but they had been thrown together, perhaps with Louisa getting better and Captain Bedwich hers opening up. They had both felt ready to love. But what about Captain Wentworth? Had he given Louisa up? Had he found that he could not love her? Captain Wentworth and Captain Wentworth were good friends, and hoped so much that there was not bad feelings between them. The colour came into her cheeks when she thought of Captain Wentworth without any attachment. She could not stop herself feeling happy, madly happy. When the Crofts visited the Elliots, Anne could see at once that they had not yet heard the news about Louisa and Captain Bedwich. But one morning, about a week later, Anne was walking home to Camden Place and she passed Admiral Croft. They decided to walk together. After a while, Admiral Croft told Annie that he and Mr. Crofts had just heard the news. "And we know that this is true," continued Admiral Croft. "We had a letter from Frederick himself. He heard it from Harold, who is in Uppercross. I hope that Captain Wentworth did not seem unhappy in his letter, and says, it seems that there was an attachment between him and Louisa Montrose, so I hope that he does not feel Captain Wentworth was behaved badly. They are such a good friends, and it would be terrible if anything changed that." "No, Frederick does not seem upset at all. He said nothing against Captain Wentworth, and he hopes that he and Miss Montrose will be happy together," replied Admiral Croft. "Poor Frederick. Now he must start again with someone else. There are enough pretty girls here, I am sure. Do you not think, Mr. Elliot, that we should tell him to come to Bath?"